I have one question from a viewer. I don't know if you want to take this right now, but do you have burnout tips for homeschool parents with anxiety or autism?
Burnout tips. Yeah. One is actually what we were just talking about. Prioritize your self-care. And I know it's so easy to say, put your oxygen mask on first. And we've all heard that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's really, really important. I went through a burnout stage when my kids were little. They called it mom sabbatical because I basically quit life. I canceled every activity. We literally didn't leave the house for 6 months because I couldn't. I was just so burned out. That's when we implemented the one activity per child too, after that, because I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
But the first burnout tip is, one, connect with other people who really get it. Mm-hmm. I think that's such an overlooked self-care tip because it seems simple, but it's really important that we get around people you can find people online that really understand what you are facing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it's different. It's different than somebody who doesn't have that. It's, a homeschool mom that isn't experiencing autism is going to give you totally different advice than one that's been there.
Yeah.
That's number one, is get a support system. And two, take time for however you recharge. Mm-hmm. Whether that's going out with your girlfriends, whether that's just alone time in the bathtub, figure out, like when my kids were little, I took really long hot showers because that was the only time that they weren't
had yourself. Yes.
Fantastic. But making that a priority for you and not don't feel guilty about it.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. It's huge. Whether maybe it's exercising, maybe it's that any of those things I think is a really big thing that we overlook that can be simple, because when you're dealing with a child with special needs, you can't just walk away from them. But we can carve out time. And maybe that looks like, getting childcare where you can leave, if that's a possibility for you. Anything like that, I think is really a great place to start. What about you, Peggy? What are your burnouts?
Well, you were talking about outsourcing earlier, and I think that's super important. And, the mom helper like you had, I had, but my recharging when my kids were young was I wanted to be with other adults. I just didn't want to be with my kids all day. So I used to run a MOPS group, or actually I was the area coordinator for MOPS International for 3 states before I started homeschooling. So I was a known speaker in the area. So I would just have this mom helper come in and I would go speak because that was my recharge. It was like, I get to be around other adults and I get to share. So for me, that was really helpful during that time. But now, with all of the stress that I have in my life, I find I have to have coffee 2 times a week with different friends. So I actually schedule those in every week. I have to get a massage once a month because I get lactic acid built up in my muscles. It's something to do with my organ issues. I have to get acupuncture every week, which is an hour of laying on a table doing nothing. And, I've been learning this process of I have to take care of myself because I had gone so far in the wrong direction. And special needs moms, it's statistically proven we are 50% more sick than typical moms because of the stress that we build into our lives. There's just stress with having a child with special needs, and then recovery from those different issues, whether it's an inflammatory disease, cancer. Recovery is not, the statistics aren't as good because we just can't let go of that stress, and we have to learn how to do it. So that's my 2 cents.
It's hard though, I think it's sometimes we hear people say that, and we have to acknowledge that it's challenging to do that. It's, our culture doesn't necessarily support that, but if you reach out to other women and you're talking to them, they get it. We get it. We understand.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I've surrounded myself when I when I found out I had cancer with some people that have gone through some really medically challenged lives. And they gave me such good perspective of, and one's a homeschool mom that just lives down the street from me. And she's like, some days I just can't do it. And God has to fill in because I just can't. And so it gave me a peace of mind, knowing that today I just can't. I'm sitting with an IV in my arm all day instead. So,
yeah. You know what you said, Peggy, it was really good though, is finding a mentor who's already on the other side.
Yes.
Is so powerful, especially when you're in that burnout stage, because it's so hard sometimes to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But to have somebody who's been there, done that, and, has the t-shirt type of thing.
Right, exactly.
So powerful. It's kind of like, my one son who we had all sorts of challenges with him, like incredible challenges. But he's 22 years old now and is an incredibly talented entrepreneur. But I can come alongside moms who've had kids that are as challenging as him and say, oh, I've been there. Yeah. I've done that. Here, you're going to make it. You get to the other side, and then give practical tips that, help in the trenches. But finding that person who's already experienced it is so important when you're dealing with things like burnout. Because when you're at the burnout stage, you had that hopelessness.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And oftentimes it takes another person to pull you out of it, whether it's a therapist or a friend, but somebody who's been there and has done that is so powerful and helpful.
Yeah, because they have the hope that you can hinge on to until that hope comes back to you.